Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome you all again in your English class today. Hope you all are doing well. So, dear children, today we are going to start with the new chapter that is from your supplementary reader, An Alien Hand, and the chapter is The Desert. Fine. So, dear children, you must have visited Rajasthan with your parents, right? And of course, must have experienced many things over there. But today, we are going to study this chapter, The Desert, with the writer's perspective. And let's find out how much we are close to the writer's thought. Okay? So, let's start with the chapter. First of all, let's find out what you know about it or about the desert. Did you know an area having an annual rainfall of 10 inches, almost 25 centimeter or less is considered to be a desert? Okay? So areas where you find annual rainfall equivalent to 10 inches, 25 centimeter or less than that is to be considered as a desert. Some deserts have no rain for intervals of several years. Deserts and semi-deserts exist in some regions having up to about 20 inches rainfall. Right? And located in South America, the Atacama Desert. Which desert? The Atacama Desert is the driest place in the world. Did you know this? Okay, let's find out some more facts about it. Around 1/3 of the Earth's surface is covered in desert. How much? Around 1/3 of the Earth's surface. This includes much of the polar regions where little precipitation occurs and which are sometimes called polar deserts or cold deserts. Then again, hot deserts usually feature high temperatures in the daytime and cold temperatures at night. This is quite interesting fact about the desert, that they usually feature high temperature in the daytime and cold temperature at night. Let's find out some more interesting facts about the desert. The Arabian Desert in the Middle East is the second largest hot desert on earth. Which one? Arabian Desert is the Middle East. In the Middle East is the second largest hot desert on earth, but is substantially smaller than the Sahara. Other large deserts include the Gobi Desert in Asia, the Kalahari Desert in Africa, the Patagonian Desert in South America, the Great Victoria Desert in Australia, the Syrian Desert in the Middle East, and the Great Basin Desert in North America. The Gobi Desert is located in the north of China. Let me try to change the color of the pen. The red color is not properly visible here. Yes, yellow is visible. So the Gobi Desert is located in the north of China and the south of Mongolia. It is growing at a fast rate due to desertification. Right? A process that turns fertile lands into desert area. That is desertification. We call it desertification, right? A process that turns fertile lands into desert areas. It is caused by humans cutting down forests, droughts, climate change, and other environmental facts. Now let's read out some keywords related to our chapter. Regions, areas, mounds, big heaps. Burrow, move underground by digging. Next one is moisture. Moisture is wetness. Adapt, adapt is change. Absorb, absorb is take in completely. Variations, variations, changes. And then final one is humid. Humid is containing moisture. Now let's read some key sentences that are the important sentences of our chapter, related to our chapter. A desert is generally without water and vegetation. A green patch with fresh water and green trees in the middle of a vast desert is a beautiful sight. A desert may be too hot or too cold. This we have read in the facts also. Desert plants and animals learn to require much less water than most plants and animals. Okay, so our desert plants and animals, they learn how to require much less water than other plants and animals. The camel is a typical desert animal. We will read about this in the chapter, why camel is a typical desert animal. You might know about it, but we will read in the chapter. Smaller desert animals have unusual means of satisfying their needs for water. Right, so these were few key sentences. Now let's read chapter in detail, but before that let's take a introduction of the lesson. Let's talk about it. Deserts are usually without water and they are either too hot or too cold. People believe that they have no life, but in fact, deserts have plants and animals that are very different because they have learned to live in the very extreme and unusual conditions in the desert. Right, now let's read this in detail. So children, as you can see, the text is given on the screen is not in the form of prose, whereas you find it in the form of prose in your textbook. Okay, so here I have converted text in the form of a comic so that it becomes very interesting and you will find it very captivating. Okay, so let's read it out. Those of us who live in regions covered with forest or surroundings by hills, many find it difficult to imagine what a desert is really like. The popular belief is that it is an endless stretch of sand where no rain falls and therefore no vegetation grows. It is dry, hot, waterless, and without shade or shelter. Okay. Let me change the color of pen here. Okay, which one I have to choose? Okay, blue one. Let's try blue one. Yes, this one is right. Okay, but this is not entirely correct. And for those who have studied it, the desert can be a beautiful place. A desert may be hot like the Thar or cold like Ladakh. Cold like Ladakh and hot like the Thar. Generally, if a place has little or no water and vegetation, people usually call it a desert. Isn't it so? A desert is not always a flat, unchanging wasteland of dry sand. It may have mountains and hills. It's quite strange, children. Fine. As many people who lives in areas that are surrounded by forests and hills believe deserts to be the vast areas of sand where no rain falls and therefore it is hot and dry. In such circumstances, there is hardly any vegetation to be found in such areas. However, this definition is not entirely correct. Why? Because people who closely study it can find desert to be a beautiful place and is a home to a variety of people who live under hot and dry condition, right? So as you know, children, in a desert, the ground is hardly ever covered with grass, plants or trees, you can say, and rains in the deserts are also rare. But whenever it does rain, the desert flowers bloom and the desert looks no less than a tropical garden. Okay. So now let's explore one more comic picture here. What this picture is telling us: it may also have an oasis, big or small. Oasis, we'll read about oasis. Okay. An oasis is like a green island. What is an oasis? An oasis is like a green island in the middle of a desert. So where we can see oasis? In the middle of a desert where a spring or a well gives plants and trees a better chance to grow. Look at here in the picture, trees are here, water is over here. Water is over here, trees are here, right? The desert is home to a variety of people, animals and plants that have learned to live under very hot and dry conditions. True, the ground is not always hidden by a cover of grass, plants and trees, as it may be in other climates. But when it rains, which is rare, desert flowers bloom and the sight can be as rewarding as that in any tropical garden. Fine. So at times the flat, unchanging wasteland of dry sand gives way to mountains and hills. It may have an oasis. An oasis, what is an oasis? An oasis is a small patch of green island with a well of water, allowing the plants and trees to grow better. A desert may be hot like the Thar desert or cold like Ladakh. Right, children? But usually it is believed that any place that has little or no water and vegetation is called a desert. Okay. Some deserts are almost totally without water. Strong winds blow in such places, raising heaps of sand and depositing them as mounds called sand dunes. What we call them? Sand dunes. So what we call them? Sand dunes here. Some deserts, let's read it again. Some deserts are almost totally without water. Strong winds blow in such places, raising heaps of sand and depositing them as mounds called sand dunes that shift and move endlessly across. The desert, few plants can survive on such dry, shifting sands. All living things need water in order to survive. Isn't it, children? We all need water to survive. It's a fact. So, the few plants and animals that live in deserts have developed the ability to require less water. Okay. The camel, popularly known as sheep of the desert. Many of you know about this earlier. We call camel sheep of the desert. So the camel, popularly known as the sheep of the desert, can drink a lot of water at a time. Why we call camel sheep of desert? Right? Let's read out. Because he can drink a lot of water at a time. Camel can go without water for days at end. And the reason is they sweat very little. This is another reason that they sweat very little. We sweat because we must maintain our body temperature. Why we sweat? Because we need to maintain our body temperature. We sweat when it gets hot and this cools the body. This is your science fact. But camels can stand high body temperatures. They don't need to sweat much and can therefore retain the water they drink for long periods of time. Right? So children, there are some deserts which have absolutely no water. In such places, strong winds blow and raise and sand in mounds. Look at here around in the picture. Right? Such sand mountains are called sand dunes. These sand dunes keep moving and shifting in the forest. Plants, however, can hardly sustain themselves in such weather. It's quite difficult for them to sustain in such harsh climate, right? Living things are dependent on water for their sustenance. Okay. Therefore, very few plants and animals are found in desert. The few that are to be found have adapted themselves, okay, to the conditions in a desert. They have developed an ability to require less water for their existence, as camel. Okay, so camel, the sheep of the desert, can do without water for several days. Okay. Why is it possible? This is possible because camels can drink lot of water in one go and they lose every little water as they hardly sweat. We human beings generally sweat, right? And humans are required to constantly sweat in high temperatures. Why? In order to maintain their body temperature. But our camel, of course, they are the sheep of the desert. Due to this reason. Okay. The smaller desert animals do not drink water. Look, there are so many small desert animals you can see around here. Snake is here, scorpio is here, right? Lizard is here. So many small desert animals you can see in the picture. The small desert animals do not drink water. Instead, they burrow underground during the hot day and come out night to eat. Right? So, here in the picture we can see that all the desert animals are out in the night time. It's night time. You can see the moon here in the sky. Some of them eat other animals and get the water they need from the moisture in the meat. Okay, so that is the main reason of their survival. Others eat plants and seeds and get the water they need from plant juices. Desert animals also adapt to the life they lead. Cactus plants. Cactus plants store water in their stick stems. Their roots lie close to the surface of the ground. That is the reason they survive easily and quickly absorb the moisture from the light rains that occasionally fall. So this is another reason that the smaller desert animal only come out of their burrow during night, okay, and avoid the heat during the day. This we have understood. Most of them either eat other animals or plants or meet their minimum water requirements from the moisture that is present in the meat, okay, and the plants juices respectively. Desert plants, wherever concerned, to likewise adapt themselves to the desert climate. One example is cactus has given here. For instance, can store water in its thick stems. You all must be having cactus at your house also. So you know that they can survive without water for a long period. Okay. So the major feature of all desert is of course dryness. Let's underline the features. The major features of all deserts is of course dryness and variations of temperature. In humid climates, the moisture in the air acts like a blanket. Who acts like a blanket? The moisture that is present in the air acts like a blanket and protects the earth's surface from the hot rays of the sun. The absence of this blanket in desert lands causes the desert to heat up fast during the day and cool off fast at night. So this is the reason behind this, that the desert heat up fast during the day and cool off fast at night. Deserts are an important part of nature's great plan. They are there like the dense forests and the deep oceans. Just because they are hot and dry, one should not look upon them as useless part of the air. So in humid climates, children, the moisture in the atmosphere casts a protective blanket on the earth. Okay, in deserts, this protective blanket is not there because of occasional rains. Therefore, the desert heat up rapidly during the day and cool off rapidly during the night. This we just have read. However, despite the harshness of the climate, the deserts are an important part of nature. This we should never ever forget. Okay. So, what we learn from this chapter, moral of this chapter, the deserts play an important part in nature's cycle of life. Just because they are hot and dry, we should not ignore them as useless parts of the earth. So dear children, a large portion of the earth is covered by deserts. This we all know. The dry patches of land with no water or vegetation too have a purpose to serve. If nothing else, deserts remind us of the beauty of other places with which God has blessed human beings. Okay, I hope you are understanding that just like It is impossible to understand the significance of light in the absence of darkness. Similarly, the beauty of nature could be appreciated by understanding barrenness as another alternative. Okay, so nonetheless, the nature landscape of deserts too are a thing of beauty. I hope the chapter is clear to you, children. Let's do some question answers based on the chapter. It's time to review your knowledge, how much you grabbed from this chapter. Let's find out. Okay, here comes your first question. Who finds it difficult to imagine what a desert is like? You can write down the answers of these questions in your notebook. Who finds it difficult to imagine what a desert is like? Yes, some people living in regions covered with forests and surrounded with hills find it difficult to imagine what a desert is like. Next question. What is an oasis? How is it useful for desert plants? Remember, what is an oasis? Just recollect the image that I had shown you in the slide. An oasis is like a green island in the middle of a desert where a spring or a well gives plants and tree a better chance to grow. Okay. Now next question. How does desert plants and animals differ from most plants and animals? How do desert plants and animals differ from most plants and animals? How do they differ, children? Let me answer you. Desert plants and animals have developed the ability to require less water than most plants and animals. Now move to next question. What is the most popular definition of a desert, according to you? You can write your own opinion, or you can write your own definition of a desert if you had visited ever with your parents. A stretch of land with little or no water and vegetation is called a desert. This is what I have written. You can write your own. If you understood the chapter, you can write it very well. Okay, children? What are sand dunes? What are sand dunes? In desert, where there is no water at all, strong winds blow, piling heaps of sand. Such piles or mounds where sand gets deposited are called sand dunes. Okay, so in desert where there is no water at all, strong winds blow, piling heaps of sand. Such piles or mounds where sand gets deposited are called sand dunes. Okay, now give an example each of a hot and a cold desert. I know you can answer this question quickly within a minute. Yes, the Thar is an example of a hot desert and Ladakh is an example of cold desert. Okay. Thar is an example of hot desert, and Ladakh is an example of a cold desert. Okay. Now, some text-based exercises from the first paragraph. Pick out two phrases which describe the desert as most people believe it is. The second one is pick out two phrases which describe the desert as specialists see it. Okay. And the third one is which do you think is an apt description and why? The third one is related to second one. Pick out two phrases which describe the desert as specialists see it. So you have to define the apt description from this. Let's check out the answer. Answer to the first one, two phrases which describe the desert as most people believe it is. First one is dry, hot, waterless and without shelter. Isn't it? Most people believe the desert is like this: dry, hot, waterless and without shelter. An endless stretch of sand where no rain falls and therefore no vegetation grows. So this is the second perspective of people who believe the desert looks like an endless stretch of sand where no rain falls and therefore no vegetation grows. The second one was two phrases which describe the desert as specialists see it. Okay. Now let's find out according to specialist perspective. A beautiful place, home of a variety of people, animals and plants. What is, now you have to decide what is your view from these two. And the third final one, I think both the descriptions is an apt in their own way, as most people describe it what they saw on television, it's right, or read over internet, while specialists made the conclusion by their interest and experience after living in desert. So here you have to describe between these two which one is right according to you, the first one or the second one. Now the phrases on the left in the following box occur in the text. Match each of them with the phrase on the right. So here are phrases on the right and here are phrases on the left. You are supposed to match these phrases with them. First one is an endless stretch of sand, waterless and without an oasis, hidden by a cover of grass. On the right hand side, fertile place with water and plants in a desert, not visible because the grass shelter is thick, nothing but sand as far as one can see, and finally no water and no shade. Now you have to match these phrases. Let's check out the answer. Here comes the first one. An endless stretch of land, nothing but sand as far as one can see. Waterless and without shelter, not water and not shade. An oasis, fertile place with water and plants in desert. Hidden by cover of glass. Not visible because the grass is thick. Hidden by the cover of grass will come here. Some mistake here. So grass is hidden by cover of grass, not visible because the grass is thick. Now let's check out another question. A camel can do without water for days together. What is the reason given in the text? Okay, so you want to write your own perspective, your own thought. You will write whatever has given in the text. What a camel can do without water for days together. This we know the fact, but what is the reason given in the text? Yes, the reason is that the camel sweats very little. It can therefore retain the water it drinks for long period of time. What is the reason? That camel sweats very little. It can therefore retain the water it drinks for long period of time. How do the smaller desert animals fulfill their need for water? A camel we all understand, but how do the smaller desert animals they fulfill their need for water? In humid climates, the air has moisture that protects the earth's surface from the heat of the sun. Since deserts have no moisture cover, they heat up rapidly during the day and cool off rapidly at night. So that's why they come out of their burrow in night. Okay. Here is long answer type question finally. In a desert, the temperature rises during the day and falls rapidly at night. Why? This is an important question. In a desert, the temperature rises during the day and falls rapidly at night. But why? Yes, in a desert, the temperature rises during the day and falls rapidly at night because of the absence of moisture in the desert lands. Okay, the moisture present in the air acts as a blanket and protects the earth's surface from the hot rays of the sun. But the moisture in the air is absent in desert. Therefore, the land heats up quickly during the day due to the sun's ray and cools down rapidly at night. Okay, let's read out the answer again. In a desert, the temperature rises during the day and falls rapidly at night. But why? Because of the absence of moisture in desert lands, right? So that is the main reason. Because of the absence of moisture in the desert lands, the moisture present in the air acts as a blanket and protects the earth's surface from the hot rays of the sun. But the moisture in air is absent in desert. That's why the land heats up quickly during the day and due to the sun's rays and cools during rapidly at night. Hope now this answer is clear to you, children. Okay, finally comes your home assignment. I have tried to give you some creative questions based on this chapter. Okay, so describe a desert in your own words. The second one is a baby cat is a kitten and baby dog is a puppy. But what is a baby camel? This you have to answer. Find out what the young ones of any 10 animals are called. Right? How do the desert plant and animals combat the scarcity of water in deserts? And how does the cactus plant manage to sustain itself in the desert? This all we had read in our chapter, and if you do this home assignment carefully, children, I'm very much sure that all of your doubts would be clear and this chapter would be clear in each and every respect. Okay, thank you so much, children, for being patient listener. Thank you very much. We'll meet you in next class with one more chapter from your book. Till then, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay home. Take care and have a nice day, children.